I know y'all can't believe it. The mic works. This is the draft season podcast. It is your boy Young Raz. It is a monumental day. I don't know if y'all checked your phones. Schefter was live. He was on the air when it went down. Aaron Rodgers is a jet. But let's we can get into that in a second. Of course, I'm here with my player partner, Sean. Talk to him real quick.
Yo, we back, man. And it's been a minute. Niggas hit me up in the streets like, yo, where the pod at? Where's everybody at? We need the content. You guys ain't dropping no content. You're not feeding the streets. Like, where y'all at? And had to step back, man. I said my bad first and foremost. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to the, what I'm saying, Raz. This quote been in my head for a minute, my guy. So we're gonna shout out to the good brother Jermaine Cole, because niggas say your whole life could change in just 1 year, dog. You know what I'm saying? Like, last 6 months of my life been a whirlwind. A lot has happened. You know what I'm saying? We're going to tease that, actually. We're not going to get into that right now. Like, if you care, you know what I'm saying, meet us back, so it's later half of the pod. We're going to get into more specifics about the hiatus, where we've been at and all that stuff. But, you know what I'm saying? I got my dog, Matt. You know what I'm saying? Matt and Phil on the spot with us. Matt, my guy, it's been a minute since we chopped it up. I sent you the text. I was like, man, we're going to do this Aaron Rodgers emergency pod. Yep. I'm going to send the bad signal. We got to pop on. I said this like a month ago. I didn't know it was going to take this long. But we couldn't have this pod. We could not have this discussion without you, because your lens on this is a very special one. Not many people gonna have that same worldview on this particular point. So we had to have you on, bro. How you been? Shit, it's a lot going on right now, bro.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Coming to you from Memphis. Obviously all Grizz right now. Game 4 tonight, big one out in La La Land. But yeah, man, we're here to talk about football. Man, it's crazy, bro. Like, there's so many different aspects of this deal. Like Favre and Rodgers, both ending up Jets 15 years apart after Hall of Fame careers with the Packers, winning 1 Super Bowl, bunch of playoff disappointments. Like, the parallels and, if you want to talk about for living in a simulation and whatnot, that's pretty wild. But, anyone who knows me, man, knows that, Raz can relate. When you're a Jets fan, you don't have a lot of quarterbacks to root for generally. So, a little over a decade ago, right before, probably 09 or so, I latched on to Aaron Rodgers as my favorite player. Just always loved the way he plays. And now my favorite player is going to play for my favorite team, which has been devoid of a real quarterback for basically my entire life. And we've got an actual squad around him, a legitimately talented roster. We're not throwing him into a bullshit situation. So, and I still think he's got a lot of good football left in him. How long he wants to play for before he wants to go do ayahuasca in Peru, I don't know. But, man, it's crazy. And I put it on my Twitter and Instagram too, man. I'm just really glad that we could finally put away the idiocy of people suggesting trade wasn't going to happen. Packers had all the leverage. Jets had all the leverage. Aaron Rodgers had all the leverage from the start. That's who had it because of what his paycheck details and what was at stake for both sides, especially the Packers. He was always going to end up where he wanted to end up. I'm glad it's the Jets, and I'm glad it's in the books now. And, yeah, man, should be an exciting couple of years ahead. Hopefully a couple of years. Not guaranteed, but I think it's at least 2, so it should be fun.
So, Raz, where you at on this? You hit me. You was like, you don't even know how you feel about this. You know what I'm saying? There was I don't know. It was one of those things where everybody knew the deal was going to – it felt like the deal was going to get done eventually the whole time. Everybody kind of got tired of it. It was a foregone conclusion at some point. We could talk about the actual compensation, but Raz, your emotions, how you feeling, historical perspective. We'll get into the rest of the shit later and everything.
Yeah, I just, I'm a Jets fan. I ain't used to having shit, right? That and we can put that on a t-shirt, right? It's just I am not used to shiny things, right? So, last year we go, Breece Hall, we have weapons now. He goes down, and that felt, like a deja vu kind of Jets thing. And I think that's just, normal running back stuff. So, we get past that. But then you look at the future that this team has with Garrett Wilson, with Sauce Gardner, with those guys. And it seems like the people on that team are starting to buy in, and the trajectory is pointing up. And then for, something like this to happen where it's Aaron Rodgers that comes into the fold, where it's your team hasn't had a quarterback since Pennington, man. Right? Before he got hurt. And that was a very small window. And it's just, if the things are pointing up like we think they are, and you can throw in an Aaron Rodgers, why can't this team compete, man? And it's, like you said, the compensation, we can talk about that. I would have preferred not to, eventually, if everything goes how it's supposed to go, like we're going to give up that first round next year. But if things get to where we think they can be, it's worth it, man. Like we haven't there, like MetLife, that shithole is going to be electric every Sunday. And it's, and between the Jets and the Giants, truthfully, but like with Aaron Rodgers popping up there, it's going to be electric. And it's something that I'm going to take my ass from Queens to MetLife to see some games. And, going to an NFL game isn't a commitment, especially when you a New York fan, you got to go to Jersey. So like this is big for us.
You go over to bro. If you're in New York, you go into Jersey. That's like a whole day commitment, bro. Like that's a huge thing. You're not just doing that for no reason. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. People go see Aaron Rodgers. Those games are always sold out. But I mean, Matt, you got a chance to see basically like the glory days, or the post-peak, post-prime Aaron Rodgers, back-to-back MVPs.
Cardation, yeah.
You saw the peak of one of the GOATs, honestly. But last year was a whole different scenario. The vibes were off from the start of the season. It just never felt right. The supporting cast, it's a whole dynamic, honestly, it's a family dynamic that, apparently Aaron Rodgers just has with whoever is close with him. The good thing with the Jets is he probably isn't going to be here that long for the relationship to get that toxic. But Matt, there's questions about like what level of Aaron Rodgers are you getting? He didn't look like that guy that we were used to seeing last year. But what version of Aaron Rodgers do you think the Jets are going to get? And so at least from what you saw, you might not have been there in person day-to-day last year as well. But what do you think went into why things didn't play or go as well for Aaron Rodgers last year, and why the Jets might get a better version of him this year? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think last year we could really gauge too much on where he was at all, really, because the first 4 weeks of the season, they went 3-1. It wasn't MVP Aaron Rodgers, but you got to remember that was the acclimation period, the first regular season games without Devontae Adams, who he said is the best player he's ever played with. And man, like some of the voodoo that they were able to create together, it's just like telekinesis type stuff, the page that they were on. So losing that, you can't understate how important that was. My D the number one, literally, probably the number one receiver in the league, in my opinion, or at least like a top 3 or 5 guy. Losing that, and then replacing it with rookies in Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs, and then older Randall Cobb or whatever. Like you can't expect that to pick up steam right away. And then right in the period where you would have expected it to take off a little bit, week 5 against the Giants in London, he breaks his thumb on the last play of the game and does not play at the same level after that. And I don't know why that hasn't been discussed more. The fact that he literally broke his thumb and then did not play at the same level the rest of the season. Like, I don't think that's a coincidence. And truthfully, I think that even with that, remember the Packers were left for dead last year, and then he started getting it cooking with Christian Watson a little bit. The offense started playing better. Defense started playing better. And they were one Sunday night game against the Lions away from making the playoffs after all that. So, I don't know. Like 12 months ago, this guy was the reigning back-to-back MVP of the league. So, and don't get me wrong, fall off at quarterback can happen fast. We might have seen it with Russell Wilson last year. But even if he's not at the MVP level anymore, or the back-to-back MVP level that he was in 20 and 21, I don't think he's far off of that. And with the weaponry that he's going to have around him with Brees and Garrett Wilson, and, if you want to consider him a weapon, at least someone he's very familiar with, the competent number 2 in Alan Lazard, I think we're going to get one of the best quarterbacks in the AFC. And I don't say that lightly with how good the quarterbacks in that conference are. So whether it's kind of similar to, people thought that Tom Brady was washed up when he went to Tampa. And then obviously we saw how that ended up. I'm not promising a Super Bowl or anything like that, but I think Aaron's got a lot of good football left in him if he wants it.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's something we have to see play out. We got pundits in the chat already saying that the Jets were robbed. So it's one of those things where we could talk about that as well, but is giving up a second, moving back 2 spots, and a first next year. Is that robbery for a potential MVP candidate? Probably not. I mean, he's 40 years old, which is the issue, right? When you could have, in theory, said you could take a swing at Lamar for 3 firsts. Is that what it is? Is 3 firsts with or is it 2 firsts with the transitional tag? I'm blanking on that
They
right
was
now.
never getting Lamar, man. That's like.
I mean, yes, it was never gonna happen.
That's
but
pipe dreams.
Who said it was robbery?
What'd you say?
Mick said that.
That's Mick in the chat.
Mick said it's robbery.
Mick said it's highway
he
robbery.
watches Mac
What's
Jones.
up, Mick?
He watches who?
Mac Jones. We're good.
Oh yeah, Mac Jones. Yeah, well, I mean, look.
All right, so I mean, looking into the actual compensation of the deal. The Jets are getting the number 15. They're swapping first, basically. The Jets are getting the 15th pick, and they're also getting a fifth-round pick, the overall 170th pick in the draft. That's the Jets side. The Packers are getting pick number 13. They're getting a 2023 second-round pick, 42nd overall, a sixth pick this year, and then obviously the conditional 2024 second that becomes a first if Rodgers plays 65% of the plays, which I mean he's gonna have to get hurt for him not to hit 65% of the plays. He's not getting benched unless things just go completely awry and some nasty like Mark Cuban end of season taking shit goes on. But like that, a lot has to go wrong for the Jets for Rodgers not to play 65% of the games. But I mean, it's basically gonna be 2 firsts. My question is. And yeah, the 42nd did come from the Elijah Moore trade, but like, all right. So Raz, what looks like what's a good outcome expectation for this trade? Like, what makes is it just championship or bust? Like I want to say shout out to there's a couple stories in sports this year. Like we got to talk about the Knicks. The Garden was rocking. The Garden was incredible. Winning is fun, man. Like we do this zero-sum game with sports to where it's just like championship or bust and. Sometimes, like winning can be fun, having an extended stretch of having good ball playoffs, teams that can actually compete in the playoffs and actually, bring the city out. The Kings, one of the best stories of the year. The Jets, winning a playoff game can be looked at as a win, even though when we get into the grand sum of things and we actually get there at the end of the year, if they only don't win, if they win one playoff game, is that really a win with everything that you gave up? Raz, what actually constitute a win for everything they just gave up for Aaron Rodgers to you?
I mean, for me, it's 3 things. It's 3 things really. It's like we could in theory make a run for the division. I think that is a first check mark that I want to be competitive in that division. Like we've been at the bottom of the AFC East for as long as I can remember. Like obviously the Bills are going to be tough. Obviously, the Dolphins are going to be tough. We need to be right in the neck of that race right there, right? And I think getting to that second weekend in the playoffs, right? I think that's a good starting ground for me. Hopefully, we can get Rodgers for 2 years and kind of build some continuity with that kind of roster and see how it progresses in year 2. But I mean, like we haven't been relevant in years, right? And this is about going all in, quote unquote, as you go in with Aaron Rodgers. So, I mean, let's see who else is left to come to the roster, obviously with the draft picks and things like that. But I mean, I need to be in the divisional round this year and hopefully be moving on to the AFC championship. And, if that's as far as that road goes, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say it was a disaster and we got fleeced out of that. Like, I think it's building, like they say, that the culture is something that's a word that's thrown around in sports all the time, but you have to establish something that's worth coming to at a point. And with these young players we can go from there.
That's the interesting thing because this team, obviously, we're gonna give credit where credit's due. The Jets were like, that's and I'm so glad we got Matt. I'm so glad you're on here, Matt. I'm so glad you're on here, Raz, because we can talk about just everything and how the season started off so promising and it ended on such a sour note for the Jets. And you can see the building blocks And then at the same time, you watch those games, you get to the second half of that season, and it was just obvious the answer at the quarterback position wasn't there. So, I mean, and that's kind of the best thing about just the interesting thing about the Joe Douglas experience right now. And he kind of has hit on every single piece on that roster other than the quarterback position. Everything else is going great. You have your building blocks. Sauce Gardner looks like a stud. You got Garrett Wilson, who might be he could definitely walk into that top 5 discussion. And we talk about receivers. If he's going, he might bring you back first round value this year alone. Garrett Wilson, when we talk about Aaron Rodgers. So I mean, when we talk about this team, Raz, and we just talk about this team, we can even look into the division a little bit more. My question is, and I guess just hypothetically thinking, because this trade just went down and we just popping on here, so this is just rash reactions and everything. Obviously, and then Matt, you probably have your own perspective on this alone, and obviously, you fired LaFleur LaFleur's brother Matt LaFleur, and obviously just wasn't working with Zach Wilson. You bring in Paul Hackett, to be the offensive coordinator. You
meant his pop.
I'll call him his pop. Also Jets legend. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to the good nepotism thing. I'm keeping it in the family. But I mean, we had the thing, and I guess this is just a Russell Wilson conversation, to where that offense, especially in Denver, it just looked disgusting and constipated the entire year. And it never really looked functioning except for like the last 2 weeks of the season, which is like random as hell. But what is it, I guess, from your perspective, that Rodgers just loved about Hackett, Matt? Apparently, because we talk about the courting of Aaron Rodgers and all of the pre-deals, the Randall Cobbs, the Lazards. I'm surprised they did not get Bakhtiari, and he was a part of the sweetheart deal that Rodgers was setting up for the Jets. But how do you feel about the Hackett part of it, and how the offense might look on Rodgers and how he looks in a different shade of green this year?
Well, as far as like why Aaron likes Hackett so much, from everything that I heard from when I was covering them up in Wausau, up in Wisconsin, but more or less that he's like a really engaging kind of teacher and can command a room and is very good at, in that 20 season, which I think was their best chance to win a Super Bowl while LaFleur has been there. I think at 20, the COVID year, I think if Bakhtiari didn't tear his ACL at the end of the season, they probably would have won the Super Bowl. But in that year, like, for example, I don't know if you remember, they would yell out when they would score touchdowns in the red zone. They would yell out, "I love gold," which is like an Austin Powers ref.
Yep.
I think we might have lost him.
Damn, he was about to drop
And,
a gem.
The way he talked concepts.
There you go, Matt. Yeah, go. I think we lost you for a second, but go ahead, Matt.
You good? You got me? Yeah. Just like the way that like Hackett kind of commanded the room and whatnot. As far as like the tangible part of it, the thing that worries me is that from what I know about his time in Green Bay, he was much more so of a red zone and third down planner than he was actually scheming up plays himself. And like his history as an offensive play caller is a little bit suspect, to say the least. But I imagine it's going to be, Hackett comes from a West Coast background a little bit, but then obviously like he's worked under LaFleur, and the Jets just got rid of Mike LaFleur, who kind of comes from that same McVay Shanahan tree, and now Hackett has experience with that. So I imagine it's going to look a lot like that. And from what I've read from what went wrong in Denver this year, like he just gave, and the entire organization just gave Russell Wilson way too much pull. And don't get me wrong, Aaron Rodgers is going to command power and is going to have his voice heard. But like the things with like the office on the second floor, away from the locker room, and things of that nature, like Rodgers isn't that kind of guy. He's not that kind of leader in the locker room. So we'll see. I do question some of the play calling stuff, but I don't think it's going to be the dumpster fire that Denver was this year.
I mean, it can't be. That is the last thing that it could be. We cannot trade it all for a veteran quarterback and turn into the Denver Broncos last year. I mean, and that's what everyone's hoping. But Look, that we don't need that in that type of negativity, Matt. So let's not even mention those words again.
I want to hit on Sean's point too, just about like last year and how good it looked, and then obviously the quarterback play, mainly with Zach Wilson, like took the entire thing off the rails completely. I think that there was a sense of desperation from Joe Douglas and probably Robert Saleh as well, that if they didn't get this thing turned around this year, like I think it's playoffs or bust for them this year, or I think they're both gone. At least Joe Douglas, I think that if he whiffs on quarterback again, I think there's a very good chance that he would be fired. And if he got fired, I think that Robert Saleh would be as well, because I think there would probably be a package deal out the door together. And when you have a roster that is so clearly as talented as last year's version of the Jets was, and the trajectory that they looked like they were on before Zach Wilson and Chris Streveler and I don't know who else, Joe Flacco and everyone else just nuked it, mainly Zach Wilson. Like, if you don't – I don't think they had a choice. They had to go big at quarterback. They couldn't go get a Jimmy G or a Tannehill or I don't even like Derek Carr. Like, Derek Carr probably, like, on the PR side of things – would have saved face, but like the players in the locker room would have known that he's not that guy. Not that guy, pal. Like it had to be Rodgers or Lamar Jackson. Because when you have a locker room that is that good at every position except for quarterback, if you don't go get a quarterback that matches that, you're going to lose that locker room real quickly. And there were signs that it was fraying away a little bit with Zach Wilson last year. So, even if you came back with some middling stopgap option, I don't think that would have been good enough. You might have maybe stuck into the playoffs, but I mean, Breece Hall and Sauce Gardner and all these guys, they've all changed their profile pictures to Aaron Rodgers at Cal wearing the 8, which he's going to wear at the Jets. That would not happen with Jimmy G or Derek Carr or whoever else the Jets could have gotten as a free agency option. It had to be Rodgers or Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson right now, it looks like the Ravens want another team to do their work for them or for Lamar to meet them in the middle on something. So Rodgers was the most logical option, so I think they had to take the swing.
Next another question for you, Matt, while we still have you. And I think we can get into some pie in the sky and then, realistic expectations for you for this team led by Aaron Rodgers this year. Like what, the division's tough, right? We have some juggernauts there, at least regular season juggernauts, and some teams that are going to be competitive. So, what do you see? Obviously Super Bowl, we'll put it out there. Super Bowl is our goal. That is the pie in the sky scenario. But what is a realistic expectation of this team? And what other moves can you see them, middling moves you can see them doing between now and the start of the season that can really shore this roster up?
So isn't it crazy? Okay, so I'll address the two moves. Two guys that I think will be Jets pretty soon. Randall Cobb and Mercedes Lewis. So Randall as like a third down security blanket for a minimum. Like, I get it. People are going to say he's washed, and he might be washed.
And I assume he was on the roster already, to be honest.
Right. But like, Aaron loves him. He was really good on third down last year. They're best friends. Like, if paying Randall Cobb $1 million on the minimum means that Aaron's more comfortable here, then it is what it is to me. Like, that's whatever. And Mercedes Lewis, listen, he is ancient, but he is an absolute monster at the line of scrimmage. Like, he's essentially an extra offensive lineman that can also catch the ball. So again, if you're going to get those guys for cheap and it helps,
always use a blocking tight end, though, man.
Huh?
You can always use a blocking tight end.
No doubt. Yeah. And like, Rodgers raved about him in the locker room more than probably any other player that I heard him talk about while I was up there. Man, and just on the expectations thing real quick, I'm going to get hit on this. I'll probably have to go in a few minutes. But
all right, hold on. Before you get there, man, you talk about expectations, and I'll let you go on there. But I just want to frame this in a question, because I think the most interesting point about all of this, and you kind of got a chance to see it up front, dealing with the Packers media and the relationship that the Packers have with the Wisconsin media. I'm pretty sure it's very different than the relationship the Jets have. with some of the degenerate beat reporters that do cover the Jets. I'm not going to say any names, but you guys do know who I'm speaking about here. So you can talk about expectations, and I guess just wrap it up into as well. How do you see that relationship going between Rodgers and the Jets? Obviously, if they start losing, it's going to go sour. Rodgers at times can be, speaking of sour, a little sourpuss, and get a little rhetorical and semantical in his answers. So how do you see that going in terms of just the back and forth for Rodgers and how he's going to interact with the New York press compared to some of your colleagues out there in Wisconsin? And then wrap it up with the expectations as well.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I don't think the New York media is as big and bad as people make it out to be. It's definitely not what it was like when we were growing up. Like,
enough to piss him off.
No, yeah, and like he had a great relationship, a great working relationship, I'll say, with a lot of, especially the beat writers up there in Green Bay, just from being around them for so long, for 18 years essentially. So that's going to take a little bit of adjusting to it. I don't know if that relationship's ever going to be the same. One, because it's New York. Two, because he's not going to be here for nearly that long. But yeah, I don't think that he's going to. I don't think it's going to explode at any point. I could be wrong, unless they really start losing. Expectations, real quick. Man, like, it's crazy how much better you would feel about this team if they were in the NFC. Because if they were in the NFC, I think that like Super Bowl is like a really, really legitimate discussion. And I think it still is in the AFC. But, bro, the gauntlet of quarterbacks you have to go through in the AFC. I mean, within the division, you're talking Josh Allen. I know the Bills have some flaws that they have to fix, but that's a perennial MVP contender, leading a team that overall is really good. They probably need to add a little bit of a cold weather element to their game. And they kind of did with Damian Harris. I'm sure there's more moves to come. But obviously, the best quarterback on the planet, Patrick Mahomes, and within your conference, Joe Burrow, who I think I would probably say is the second best quarterback in the league right now, with Josh Allen slotting right behind him. You assume Lamar is going to end up back in Baltimore at some point. Justin Herbert out in LA. I'm really excited about that combination with Kellen Moore. And then, the rise in the South with Trevor Lawrence. And, you get the feeling that could explode at some point this year. Playoffs have to be the expectation. And I can see that. There's a path where they win the division. I think I would still probably say that Buffalo is the slight favorites, but that's pretty close. I'd be curious to see like what the sports books make it. But I think that playoffs and winning at least one playoff game, I think should be the minimum expectation. Anything beyond that, I don't know if it would surprise me, but just like given the gauntlet of quarterbacks in the AFC, I think it could be tough, especially the gauntlet of quarterbacks in the AFC who now have continuity. Obviously, Mahomes won 2 Super Bowls with the Chiefs. Burrow, they're going to really year 3 of this run where they're a perennial contender. Allen's been doing this for a couple of years. Lamar will be interesting. Herbert, you get the feeling they're going to pop pretty soon, like really pop. So I don't know. I think that my bar is playoffs and win one playoff game. Beyond that, I think would be pretty good.
Yeah, no, that's a little bit more reasonable than I was expecting. I was expecting you to go a full out homer on that take there, man. I'm actually disappointed that you didn't just go full homer take. You know what I'm saying right there.
If it was like I said, if it was the NFC, I probably would. But
I'm disappointed in you for not seeing the obvious lane that's available for you to be, like the Nick Wright to Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
So you can parlay your way back to the New York media. And just play the homer, and somebody has to do the Aaron Rodgers takes. So you just got to get out ahead in front of it, before the season starts. Just start talking crazy, and then next thing you know, everybody's gonna know, like, yep, I called it
Real
first.
quick before I go, Garrett Wilson, Offensive Player of the Year, take it to the bank and throw some money on it.
There we go. That's what you was looking for, Sean.
Yeah, that's what it is. But shout out to you, Matt. Appreciate you hopping on here, man. We definitely getting back in business over here, man. So we got a lot of stuff coming on here. Gonna have got to get Matt on here. So Matt, we definitely gonna chop it up with you on the side. But yeah, man, follow Matt on Twitter. Matt, let people know they can follow you as well, man.
Well, hey, you guys got me back?
Yeah, bro.
We gonna plug you.
I was saying, Go to whatever gambling app you like and throw $10 to $20 on Garrett Wilson to win Offensive Player of the Year. That's all I'm saying.
It's worse bets to make, guys. I'm not gonna hold you. I'm not.
It is worse bets.
If he's getting the Devontae Adams volume, bro, like it's gonna look like they've been playing. Him and Aaron Rodgers, it's gonna look like they've been playing together for like a decade by like week 2. Probably like honestly.
And with the 17 too. Don't sleep on that.
And especially like the type of routes that like Garrett Wilson is actually good at, bro. Like the back shoulder stuff. And just the nifty releases that he's like incredible at, like it's gonna. Those are just like that's a combination that's like made in heaven right there. So, it's gonna be fun to watch. I still wanted to see Elijah Moore there, but you know what I'm saying, you guys got McCall Hardman, so you know nothing to complain about. That's heavy.
Hey,
that's heavy sarcasm right there.
Fellas, thanks for having me on. I got to bounce. All right.
Yeah, man. All right, man. Shout out to you. But yeah, Raz. Now we still here, man. We gonna keep it up and getting into like the second part, but what else are you trying to get into here, Raz? We got a lot.
I mean, we got to talk about the New York Knickerbockers. I think we would be remiss if we did it. I mean, do you want to? We can dabble in football for another 5 or 10 minutes, but you know where we at. It is New York City, and there's one team that's rocking right now. It's not that gentrification, franchise out there on Flatbush and Atlantic. It's not them. They're done. They've been swept 2 years in a row, but it's the real team is here, the New York Knickerbockers, man.
No, man, that's the way it go, man. And all right, so let's fuck it. We dive into the Knickerbockers, man. And I just feel like, and kind of we brought it up earlier. We just talk about the vibe just being incredible, and just talk about the Knicks in general. And it's funny because the Knicks are a franchise that really don't deserve the benefit of the doubt. But how they've been moving recently, there's been more logic to some of their moves than they're making in the past. And I think what I like so much about the Knicks, and we'll talk about the on-court stuff in a second, but they kind of gave themselves multiple avenues to better days, man, and to greener pastures, to where the on-court product is one thing, but they also have a treasure chest full of draft picks, and their cap sheet is looking great in the future. We talk about, just the roster. This is the most talented Knicks roster that, I think I've ever seen, in my adult life. Going back, we probably going to have to take it back to, some of those 90s rosters, to just a Knicks team that was just as, complete. And, we still have guys at the back end of the roster and the rotation who just haven't had a chance to really play. We got to talk about just the impact that Jalen Brunson has made on this team. But I mean, Raz, just where you at on this team? The Knicks are up. They have a commanding lead in this series against the Cavs. But leading up to this point, what's your takeaways? How you feeling right now?
I mean, I think we can start first just with the Jalen Brunson signing. I'll go out and I'll be the homer that Matt wasn't for the Jets, but that Jalen Brunson signing clearly is one of the most impactful signings, short of one of the big stars moving and switching teams. He has changed the trajectory of this team just with steady point guard play. It was monumental because, as you know, in New York, we haven't had a point guard since I guess you want to count half a season of Felony Felton and go back to freaking Chris Childs and Chris Duhon. These are the type of people we've had playing point guard for us, man. And we have one that's young, that's excited, who's a bucket, who settles this team
pure neglect of the point guard position by the Knicks for 25 years, bro.
We haven't had a point guard literally since we were in elementary school, bro. And we've brought in cult classics like Pablo Prigioni. He was getting heavy minutes on a Knicks team. So this is the type of things that we were used to. Jalen Brunson, has been a welcoming sight in just stuff, just took us out of darkness realistically, right? And I'll say from there, he gave us a little bit of that hometown discount. Shout out to some collusion, but he's like that, and clearly
he got the family plan.
Yeah, he got the family discount, bro, and it's and I thought this was gonna be it still can be, right? It's not over. The series is not done, but we have to secure victory. I think we need to get it done in 6, preferably 5. But D Mitch might be seeing Jalen Brunson nightmares, like from the last 2 seasons and the last 2 playoffs. Like he's had to run into this dude 2 years in a row. And I was at the Garden yesterday, and how you were speaking about how the energy in the city is different when the Knicks are good. Like, this is truly a basketball city that has been void of anything to cheer for quite some time. So that's why when you're online and you're seeing all of these crazy Knicks fans, or they haven't won anything, they haven't won, like, yo, this city breeds basketball, and we don't get a good product on a year-to-year basis. So when it's there, it's pandemonium. And the Garden was just an incredible scene. And they handled business, man. I think this team has the chance to do a little damage in the playoffs. I'm not going to put any crazy expectations on them, but like, they have a chance to really put up some fights this offseason. And Tibbs benching Randall yesterday afternoon, shows that he's willing to do what it takes to win with the roster he has right now, and to show the league that come sign with the Knicks, like they might legitimately be one player away from being a legitimate championship contender.
Now, the point you bring up about Donovan Mitchell is incredible, and this is one of the more, I feel like, more intriguing and just captivating first rounds that I think we've gotten in the NBA, just in terms of like the matchups. And I don't literally, I say this all the time, like the NBA is a soap opera, it's a novella. That shit is my favorite drama to follow day to day. You don't know what's going on. It's better than anything you've seen on Access Hollywood, ETV. Like, the NBA is my favorite Hollywood shit to follow. And when we just look at the matchups, bro. Like, think about these teams. You have the Cavs Knicks, series, which you brought up the Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Brunson thing. The Donovan Mitchell trade to Cleveland, RJ Barrett playing incredible in the series. They didn't want to. Whether they gave up RJ or not, they kept him. The trade didn't go through. Cleveland looked incredible, but the Knicks kind of looking like they're looking like the smart ones. They're looking like geniuses right now for not making that trade. The Philly Brooklyn series wasn't really entertaining, but just the fact that after everything, the Harden trade that went down, and just it was a sweep, but like those two teams to match up in the first round. You got the Denver Minnesota matchup. Those two teams facing in the first round. It's type nuts, the Tim Connolly Bowl of just those two rosters. Connolly leaving, the Gobert trade, just those teams being intertwined. Super interesting, even though the series itself wasn't that interesting, but the fact that those two teams just matched up. And then you got Phoenix, LA, which like Kawhi and PG getting hurt suck, obviously, but just those two teams that just have kind of built-in championship expectations. Prior to the injuries, that was just super intriguing to watch. The Golden State Sacramento series, you got Memphis, LA, like all these series were pretty captivating and interesting in their own rights, and the storylines have just been incredible for this NBA season. And I think second round, the rest of the playoffs are just going to be incredible. And I think the league are just licking its chops, especially if you get the Knicks in the second round. A Knicks Miami or Knicks Bucks is going to be a pretty good series. But going back to the Knicks for a second round, and just talking about that team, and what do you think, for you at least, in general? I think bringing it back to Jalen Brunson, and I watched Jalen Brunson, and we're huge Jalen Brunson fans. Some of the pieces, it was hard to put together what they were trying to do at the time, although just looking at what the Knicks did over the offseason, at least it was the awareness of their prior mistakes. And you see a lot of these things, and we have conversations about the team. We haven't talked about the God IQ, Raz, and I think we've both been extremely high on IQ. We was in Vegas watching him cut up him and Tyrese Maxey going back to back. We was there. The boys was putting on a show. So IQ having this breakout season was incredible. Quentin Grimes, established himself as, just a rugged and one of the best on-ball screen navigators, and, just good two-way wings, who's still scratching the surface of what he's going to be. At least the Knicks showed that there was like, all right, cool. We might have been tripping. It didn't seem like if there was some, I guess, synergy between what, Thibs was doing, on the court and what the front office was putting together. But just watching this team, Raz, and we talk about why do you think the pieces on this team fit so well? And just to go back to Brunson for a minute, and like we talk about just the the Knicks not having, great point guards for so damn long, and then you watch Jalen Brunson play, and it's just like, bro, I watch him, and it's just like, dude, he goes at it like every damn possession means something. The chip on Jalen Brunson's shoulder is fucking incredible to watch, bro. And I've been a fan of his for a long time, and even as somebody who's been a fan of his, like, I love stories like that. And we do the prognosticating, we do scouting. But you really can't, it's hard to really quantify heart and want it. And what I'm saying? We put imaginary ceilings on dudes, and I think that's a way to make shit sound better for us. What I'm saying? You really can't, the work that Jalen Brunson put in, especially for a small guard, like, that shit is incredible. So I love seeing guys like, Jalen Brunson, SGA. There's a bunch of guys in the league right now who've just blown past any type of Jalen Williams on OKC, guys who just blown past, any type of reasonable expectations that we have for them. But I mean, what it is for you that you think just made this Knicks team come together so well and just made the pieces fit?
I mean, I think you mentioned it. I think the front office and the coaching staff seem like they really took this offseason to sit down and be like, yo, this is I'm the coach, and this is the system I need to run, and these are the type of players and the players that are going to get playing time that I need to see, right? And I think realistically during the season, admitting your mistake with the Cam Reddish thing or whatever beef that was that they had, and they unloaded, Cam Reddish, and they traded a first round pick, and people said that was a bit steep to just bring back Josh Hart with that first round pick. If you look at this roster, we don't have room for any more first-round picks. As ridiculous as that sounds, right? Like, unless we're getting a top 5 pick, we have way too many players on the roster that need to find playing time, that are young and that are these later-round picks. Or, even Obi Toppin, he was a lottery pick, but he's stuck behind, Julius Randle, who
all-NBA forward.
Yeah, an all-NBA forward. Let's not forget that either. I know he gets a lot of slander in these New York streets, but, like, the dude played 77 games and probably would have played them all if he didn't twist his ankle. And he shows up most days, 95% of those days, and he works hard, man, regardless of what y'all want to say about the man. He's came here, he's played hard, he's gotten all NBA, and this team has been to 2 playoffs under his leadership, and I think that's more than we can say for a lot of players that have come through here in the last 20 years. But that Josh Hart trade, is the trade that felt like it gave this team – it solidified their identity, and it gave them, like that player, like, Obi Toppin's a fan favorite. Quickly, they're fan favorites, right? But, like, it gave a universal fan favorite that this underdog kind of story that the city always leans on. Somebody that's gonna play all the dirty minutes, do everything that needs to get done for this city. Like, Josh Hart was the missing piece on this team, and obviously, I'm not saying this is like championship or bust or championship aspirations, because of a Josh Hart addition, but foundational pieces like this are the type of moves in the margin in between the margin that the Knicks were not making. We were whiffing on big ones, on big moves, and then not even hitting the middle moves that we needed to even tread water. So I think, signing Jalen Brunson this all season, giving you that 24, 25 points a game, and then bringing his boy over mid-season at the trade deadline, who does all the dirty work, who knows where Jalen Brunson is going to be on the court. Things like just little things that increase the synergy on the team, and this team has taken off since that trade.
I don't know, man. I just watch the playoffs, man, and, like, that's the beautiful thing about it, man. The playoffs is about surviving in advance, bro. It's not about efficiency. You can get into the efficiency, pageant, and like, it's not always going to be pretty in the playoffs. And like you said, shout out to Tibbs. For at least knowing, and like I said, there's you have your egomaniac players who I think every NBA player wants to win to a certain extent. But most guys want to win, how they want to win, and those are kind of the guys that you can tell aren't all in, So even in the situation yesterday, you have the Knicks have done. We talk about the roster, just how they accumulated talent, and they kind of were just getting a bunch of talented pieces, and then for worrying about the fit afterwards. And I think we haven't really spoken about him, and I think we spoke about him in the past, talking about prospective contract value and everything. But I think the other unheralded guy, this season in general, and especially in this postseason play, the series against the Cavs, like Mitchell Robinson has also been just absolutely phenomenal on a defensive end. I think he's been the best big in this series. I think he's had the best impact. He's kind of been able. He's made Donovan Mitchell's life hell defensively. You talk about seeing nightmares. Like he's been everywhere. And I think he's, especially done. Like he's been in all of the gaps, and I think that's one of the most impressive things about just watching Mitch defensively. And I always laugh. Shout out to the impact of the game meme, Mitchell Robinson, that he was posted on his IG story. And he it's funny because he seems like Mitch Robinson knows how damn impactful he is defensively. And we talk about I think the big man theory about you got to get your big man involved. And Mitch is so damn good defensively, and you kind of like I understand why he'd be pissed, because he can make the argument. You can really honestly make the argument that he's one of the more underrated, defensive impact players. Big men, and how you want to value that. Specifically, that's a conversation for its own for another day. But what Mitch Robinson does and his rim protection, it's the elite skill, and it's a part of defensively. When they are clicking, they are locked in, and particularly after the Josh Hart deal, and how just annoying they've been for teams. And it's never really a fun time playing that Knicks defense, even if you are making shots really. And some guys, obviously, you get the guys who just go for career days against the Knicks. It's been happening for like 20 years. Obviously, it's one of the most incredible things that I've ever seen in my life. That got like just random guys going off for 30 points against the Knicks out of nowhere. But yeah, man, I think it's an incredible, Knicks winning I didn't see them winning a playoff series, come into this year. So I think they're ready for them to be on the verge of clinching a playoff series. We got to look at we're already looking at the season as, just a success. And it's a team that, you're going to be able to bring back whatever, your favorite parts of this roster. You're going to have decisions to make on some of the guys, Quickly's future contract. What are you doing with Obi? Whatever you want to do with a Grimes possible extension in the next year or two, getting off of Fournier and things like that, and what you're going to be able to do. So, the Knicks are in a great position, and regardless of what happens down the stretch here, man, like they're going to be in play for even the superstar play transaction. So, shout out to the Knicks, man. Shout out to the MSG for rocking. We're gonna say shout out to number one Knicks fan Ben Stiller as well. It's just I don't know, man. Because we see the fucking same faces that are at like fucking, I guess, Crypto Center or whatever, man. But it's just different in the Garden, Raz. It just hit different because I see Staples Center, I see Crypto, and it's just like, yeah, man. Like obviously, this is a lot of corporate money in the building.
Yeah, they're there to be seen, bro.
In New York, I know the real fans over there are in like the 200, 300s. And then you get the diehard Knicks fans, like it's diehard from section 1. Every seat in that building is diehard.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like the difference with them courtside seats at the Garden and as opposed to the left coast, it's Ben Stiller's there. He rocking with the Knicks, bro. Like what Spike Lee's the most notable, Knick fan. Like, but come on, he's there every time, good or bad. Then you have people like Leslie, what's her name? Leslie Jones. Like they got her on all the promos in there, like Keenan Thompson, Tracy Morgan. Like you can the Knicks fan base is incredible, man. Like there's people there that you're like, like these people are really they're just like us. They go through this, they just got a lot more money, but they go through the same pain that the Knicks put them through because they be on the roller coaster rides in the Garden just like us, man. When you look at Staples Center, they're there so you can get the pictures, snap them off, and you can see how it was courtside. But like you said, from the court, from the hardwood to the rafters, bro, it's the energy's electric, man.
I mean, what else you got in terms of like what else you trying to talk about, Raz? We got the open floor here, man. We just kind of shooting this shit here, man. We're gonna get into the rest of the shit we're gonna talk about. But what else? Like, I don't know if there's the playoff shit you wanted to get to, or I mean, whatever the fuck.
It's been a minute since we had the conversation about anything early, but the the MVP race this year was one that was just marred by narratives, man. And it usually is a narrative driven award, but this year made me care. Like, I don't even care who won it.
Yeah, I honestly don't give a fuck about that.
Like, Embiid was doing all types of campaigning. He was out here on the campaign trail slandering Jokic, for no reason other than the fact that he wants the MVP. Like, and I was like, damn, like, I bang with Embiid, but now you're gonna make me into a hater. Like, just go and hoop, bro. Like, just go. Like, you killing. Like, you don't have to. He was smearing the Jokic campaign. Like, but other than that, like I said, I don't care who wins. I think Embiid will get it. A little bit of me is hoping that it's like Giannis or Jokic just for the funny part of it. But
so the conversation, the MVP conversation has reached, such polluted waters, and you're starting from such a place of extreme bias in any conversation and agenda that you reach to, that it's just, that shit is horrible, man. I try and avoid the conversation. Everybody got agendas. The agendas got agendas. There's concealed notions, and everybody's looking for that piece. So yeah, that conversation doesn't mean anything. It's just truth, man. Like, the talent level in the NBA is to the point where there's going to be multiple guys who are putting up MVP seasons, like every season. This is something that we're going to have to, I guess, sort out in the future, and it's not going to become any easier, as some of these burgeoning talents in the league start to foster and become, when the Wembys and of the world start to take place. This shit is only going to get more convoluted, and these discussions are going to become even more, annoying. You can make the argument for Giannis, you can make the argument for Jokic, you can make the argument for Embiid, like, it's just whatever, man. It's just fucking disgusting, man. I think this shit is, bro, I don't know, man. Like, this shit is becoming, it's going to become payola eventually, Raz, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I'm surprised, like, MVP voters aren't being paid off already, to be honest.
Like, play my mixtape. Play my mixtape. All types of man. Like, I think I don't even want to know who voted for who. I think that's where we got to get away. Like, don't tell me who you voted for. Why, Ben Simmons? Like, I don't need the list of who voted for who. Like, I know anytime I see what's his name? What's dude out in Boston? Not Bob Ryan. His senile ass, but what's the other dude? Bill Simmons. Anytime I see some Bill Simmons votes, like, we know who and where he's leaning towards. Like, the bias is already implied in all of the content that some of these people put out. So I mean, I think if we can go back to our anonymous ballots, and just vote it that
too, though, bro. Like, I like the fact that there's some type of, at least, what I'm saying, public, like, slander and acknowledgement if you just out here moving wonky. Because if it's, but, like, I don't know, man. It's too much fuckery that might go on with an anonymous ballot.
You might be right. It just all leads to the discourse that I don't want to have. I think that's the thing, right? But yeah, we back to the playoffs. I mean, I think a team like the Nuggets has been underrated because of I don't give a fuck stretch at the end of the season when they had the kind of the 1 seed wrapped up already. This is a team that's pretty healthy now. Haven't been healthy in 2 or 3 years. I think there's something crazy. I was talking with a friend of the podcast, Denzel. He was saying, like, Michael Porter Jr. has some ridiculous, like, true shooting percentage on open threes. That's like above 75% or some shit like that. Like, and Jokic is gonna hit that pass every single time. Jamal Murray looks like he's back to balling. And then, like we were talking about with the Knicks, some of those moves that they made that were within the margin, not star players, but players to bring continuity to a team and to provide depth and meaningful minutes. KCP and Bruce Brown were just incredible pickups for this team, and I think they're going to play dividends as they move forward in the playoffs. The Kings and the Warriors, it's a shame that De'Aaron Fox has broken that finger on his shooting hand. That news came out a little later this afternoon. So we'll see if he'll be able to play through that. But, that series has been great as well. And I would love to see both teams kind of try and finish that out as close to full strength as possible. But, I mean, the NBA playoffs have been a great show so far. So everything that we could have hoped for after a grueling 82 game season. I mean, and I'm just happy we back on the mic, bro. So we can bring these people to content and talk about the stuff that needs to be talked about.
No, yeah, we definitely gonna be back, man. And like I said, man, I was feeling like, what was it? I know it's a Andre three Stacks verse. Like I think it's on that Ti Sorry record where he's just talking about. It's like I was feeling bad, man. I was like, no, I know we trying to get back on the mic. I guess we'll talk about this shit a little bit, man. Because yeah, man, this shit is crazy, man. Shit happens so fast, and like just trying to put into perspective just shit that's going on. Like the pod, me and Raz started this shit a couple years ago, and this was our passion projects, to be honest. So, and this shit has brought us to some crazy places that we didn't really expect it to be. So, like even we was jam packed in the middle of just getting ready for our preview NBA draft shit, or NBA for the NBA season and everything. And then yeah, like career wise, like went crazy for me, working for the NBA, which is what I've been doing for the past 6 months. Which is just like shit is nuts, man. Like I like shit is just hard to put into perspective, and you know what I'm saying, just the positions that we want, and that's the wild thing, Raz, because everything into perspective, and all the work that niggas put into to get to where you want to go to, and then you finally get there, and we just talk about that shit. And I guess my thing, and it's not even survivor's remorse, and for me, but more so trying to understand everything that's gone on in this past life for me, because the wildest part is we haven't even talked about this that much, Raz, because like, bro, the wildest part about all this shit is like fucking like soon after all that shit happened, niggas got to a crazy car accident, bro. Like I think about this shit a lot. I don't know, man. I'll do some like look at me Louis shit because this shit been on my mind for a lot. So I don't know. Like we spoke about this shit before, Raz, when I met. Shout out to the homie Black Trey and all them, and we see guys, and I know the producer that they did the pod with, Jade Hart, like he had a crazy car accident, and shout out to him, praise for him and his family. I know he's still doing recover, and that shit has been on my mind a lot, man. I can't get that shit off my head. I hope he's great in his recovery and shit, but it's just like, bro, I could have died in that car that night, and like none of this shit happened. Dream job, the pod, all this shit we done, that shit could have been completely different. So like I've been in a weird ass place like the last 6 months where it's just like so much shit is happening at once, and then like in the back of my head I really can't actually, like, it's not adding up to me, and like there's a part of me I'm like, do I even deserve this shit? Should I be here right now? But it's a reason, like I'm here for a reason. That shit, like, not even to go like complete dick flute solo on this shit, Raz, but that's really like just trying to like push it into perspective. But that's why like everybody that hit me on the side, like I appreciate y'all rocking with us. The people that actually supported us. If you ever like taking any time out your day, what I'm saying, to click on anything that we've done, like that shit means a lot to me, because that's kind of what I'm saying here, man. That shit put everything into a perspective of just like, just being like appreciative for every day. Like we take health for granted, we take our loved ones for granted, the people in your lives for granted, and like that shit, like it just like recentered everything for me. So I mean, that's that, but we definitely are back. So shout out to everybody for rocking with us. If there's anything in particular that you like, want, and like even like shout out to you, Raz. I know this shit, we all go through shit, but it was just a lot going on. But it's like we've been saying this whole time, man. It's great to be back. We about to take this shit to another level. We behind the scenes, crossing the T's, dotting the I's, getting shit prepared for you guys. And like I said, taking this shit to the next level, like Raz, what we capable of. And we know, just getting to that next level that we're gonna get to. We're gonna get back to giving you guys this content. But yeah, man, that's kind of what I had to tell the people, man. It feels good to get that shit off my chest, to be honest. That shit was on that shit for a minute, bro. I'm not gonna hold you.
Yeah, no, I mean, bro, it's a blessing, right? Like you said, the accident was crazy. The new job, stuff on my side been up and down, and I think the human aspect of it, and not to turn our normally lighthearted and sports pod into, to therapy session, but it's real, right? Like we gotta sometimes sit back and get right. We could have kept putting out the content as it was. But we weren't as locked in where we needed to be in terms of to give y'all the content y'all deserve. the platform that y'all helped us build, whatever. Like we couldn't shortchange y'all on that. So like Sean said, we've been behind the scenes getting shit right. And this relaunch that is upon us, we got a lot of stuff really in store. It's gonna be, it's gonna be a new heights for us, really. We've been going so long. I got hair, bro. I got a good full set of that shit. So it's, we're back. Like Sean said, and
a lot of shit to catch up on. We got a lot of shit to get back into the flow of things, but yeah, man.
And we can sign off, at a solid hour, in that first time back. This is the Draft Season Podcast. We will be back very shortly. The NFL Draft is coming up. Please make sure you guys are in tune with what your teams are doing. We will be in tune, and we will bring you all the next and latest and greatest from that, the fallout from the NFL Draft. And as we get rolling, make sure y'all rocking with us. Subscribe on the YouTube. Follow us on the gram. Follow us on Twitter. We're back, and look for us shortly. Sean, you got anything else you want to say to them?
No, man. We definitely back. We're gonna be bringing you guys this content shortly. And you know what I'm saying? Draft Season Podcast. Tell a friend. You know what I'm saying? Subscribe to everything on Draft Season Podcast. We're gonna be doing updating everything wherever you get your podcast at. Definitely make sure you are tuned in. And now we definitely gonna be tapped in soon with y'all, man. Draft Season Podcast. We out of here.